Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. We are so excited to have the opportunity to be with you today. I have an amazing guest who is going to impart all kinds of wisdom on us. Isn't she cute? And so we're ready to jump right in. But before we do, if you are not already following Productive Joy, do so. It definitely will make sure that we are always in your inbox and you are going to get the latest and greatest of all the fun things that we're sharing. Because I do know some really smart people, including the beautiful woman sitting in front of me right now. Grisel Scarantino is a career clarity coach, work-life fulfillment strategist, dog mom, entrepreneur, backyard gardener, and Bigfoot enthusiast, who is going to share some really awesome things with us today. So Grisel, tell us, here's the thing. People only listen for like 30 seconds. So tell us why we should keep listening because you're here today.
Why you should keep listening is because this is going to be all about you and the ever-present situation in your life, which is your career and your fulfillment in your career and why it matters and how it affects the rest of your life.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And you're speaking of fulfillment, not just work for the sake of work, but working in a way that fulfills you and uses your authentic self, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, and speaking from experience, we can work to live or we can live to work. And a lot of us, I think, are caught in that grind of living to work because we think that we have to because there's so much tied to our work and to our careers. And so there is like a degradation of our sparkle that happens when we're living to work, but we don't have to live to work. We can work to live and we can do it happily and joyfully and authentically and earn our income comfortably just by being ourselves.
Oh my gosh, I am in. You had me at degradation of sparkle. How many times are we in a work environment where we feel like we have to be less than who we really are because we're too much this or we're too much that? I just had that happen with a group recently, and you get the surveys back at the end and they're all glowing and wonderful, but the one you choose to focus on is the person that says she's too much. Yep, sure am. Told you at the very beginning I'm a lot. And that's, I think, what you're saying is come as you are and own who you are, and then you get to be exactly who you're supposed to be. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we are shifting out of who we really are, it's like we're wearing this mask or a costume. And after a while, it just gets heavy carrying all that around and remembering what our lines are supposed to be and what our script is and what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to say it. That's exhausting.
Mm-hmm. It is exhausting for sure. Now, it took you a little while to figure that out, and you wrote a best-selling book to help the rest of us figure it out, Trust Your Wings, and I have had so much fun reading it. How did you get there? Because you didn't come out of the womb knowing, okay, I'm going to be my authentic self and I'm going to work to live instead of live to work.
How did I get there? Well, like many of us, my career's taken some twists and turns. And I will abbreviate this as much as possible. But when I first went into college, I was looking around for my major, thought it was going to be one thing. Turned out psychology was my place, right? I just am fascinated by the human condition and why we do what we do naturally. But I have also really been interested in work and career. I'm a first-generation American. My parents came from Cuba in the 60s. Worked really hard. Work has always been very central to my upbringing. So work has always been a topic of interest for me. When I found that you could marry psychology and work together, that was my space. So when I graduated with my master's in industrial organizational psych and I came back to Florida, I couldn't really find a job doing that. So I ended up in healthcare working as a behavioral health therapist where I was working with people of all walks of life on their personal development, but also building programs and trainings and all the things. Anyway, my career evolved from there, and I ended up working with executives and in a large organization around their employee engagement strategy. And one of the main things that I did there was I was in charge of the career development piece, right? Because in graduate school, I worked in the office that helped students who were graduating from college to transition out into the workforce. And that's where my journey began in the career coaching space. And it just followed me my entire career. So anyway, since that had always been the running thread, I was in charge of the career development pieces, the employee engagement strategy. How do we develop people and keep them here? And so it was in addition to leadership coaching, team member development. That's what I was doing. Anyway, I was helping people with their career, wasn't really applying all of these things to myself. And I was just working myself literally into an early grave. So what happened to me, how I ended up getting here is I, out of nowhere, just was diagnosed with a rare cancer. And we didn't know how much longer I had left to go. That was 5 years ago. I'm healthy.
Thank
now.
goodness.
Cancer free.
Yay.
Thank you. That just caught that scare. It was terrifying. I thought, okay, I'm looking at the end of my line right now, and all I could think of were all the things that I had left undone.
Wow.
And a lot of the reason why they were undone is because I was living to work. I wasn't actually living my life. I was existing. I wasn't living,
Now, you had an experience right before you were diagnosed that was living, right? Like you went on a very special honeymoon vacation after you got married, right? So tell us about that, how that juxtaposition of a high and a low was also that I want more highs than lows.
Oh, right. So earlier that same year, I had gotten married to the love of my life. It was a dream come true. That was, plus what we did was a couple months later was my 40th birthday. And I had always wanted to go to Paris and never gone. And so we combined our honeymoon and my 40th birthday, and we went to Paris and Amsterdam. We hung out there for a couple of weeks, and it was just absolutely magical. It was amazing. I mean, anyway, I came back from that trip, and 3 weeks later is when I just started feeling sick. I ended up having to go to the emergency room overnight. It was appendicitis. And then when I got my lab results back, it turned out that it was appendix cancer. So earlier that year was a total high in my personal life.
Yeah.
Total high. And then 3 weeks later, just out of nowhere, boom, you may have 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years left to live. We don't know. But we need surgery. You need to go back for surgery. You got to all these things. And it was a juxtaposition.
Well, and yours was extreme, but I think everybody listening to this can relate to the idea that things seem really, really good, and then all of a sudden it takes a nosedive, and everything that you thought to be true and right and okay happens. And you have a choice in that moment to fester in the bad or to rise above it into the good. And you help people do that. You help people rise above the fester, if you will, like to pull themselves out of the rut that they might be in. How do you do that?
Well, I first of all do it because I went through that experience myself. So when I was recovering from all of my surgeries, I thought, okay, wait a minute. I know that at the core of all of this, which I really felt like I got sick because I was just under so much stress.
Yeah.
So much stress. And I wasn't taking care of myself, honestly. I really wasn't. But while I was recovering, I thought, okay, if I get a second chance at life, and I was convinced that no matter what, I was going to make that happen. If I had any power over it, I was going to make that happen. If I get a second chance at life, and when I get a second chance at life, I need to honor my priorities, right? And I know that I need to actually live my life. So what I did was I have spent my career, it's been 20 years in the people development, talent development, career development, leadership development space. And I have amassed all of these wonderful evidence-based tools that I use with people every single day. But like I said, I wasn't applying those things to myself. So as I was recovering, I thought, okay, I need to get intentional about my career.
Yeah.
I need to pay attention. And I need to create a strat. I need to figure out what I really want out of my career and how I'm going to leverage that career to live my best life. So I pulled out all of my things and I put together a process that I followed myself.
Nice.
To really pinpoint the direction that I wanted to take my career into. And it all started with first identifying, well, what does my best life look like? How do I want to be living my life? Let's start there, because I'm talking about career and I help people with their career, but that career exists within the context of our life.
Yeah.
So let's start there. And then let's reverse engineer it, right? So that's what I did. I put together a process that I went through, and I found incredible clarity and confidence in knowing this is exactly the direction that I need to go in. And when I was, I knew that I always wanted to have my own business and run it full time. I just wasn't exactly sure what that was going to look like, or I had ideas. And I had, in all transparency, I had started a business before I got sick, before I left the corporate world. I started a business and I was running it simultaneously. I love that. That business still exists today and I still work in it. This business, though, was born from that one, and this is where I spend the majority of my time. Anyway, it was a process of identifying, well, what really lights me up? Where do I sparkle the most?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And what is it what's my purpose really? What's my why? Now, how do I translate that into, okay, well, how do I make a career out of that?
Right.
So when I did that for myself, then I tested it with other people who wanted the same type of transformation in their life, tested it over time, refined it, tweaked it. And that's the process that I use now.
Well, and I'm going to guess people are going to want to be all over finding you and figuring out how to do that. So we will make sure at the end of this that we share exactly how to get in touch with you, because you are exceptional at what you do because you did it yourself. And then you've now helped other people get on their own journey, because it is a journey, right? We don't reach a destination. We enjoy the journey, or we should. And yet so often we are just working to get to the destination. We don't even know what the destination is most of the time. So I love what you do. And I think what you do is so needed in all different spaces, right? Like we can't just assume that we're going to arrive where we want to go if we don't set that clear goal to begin with, right? Otherwise, we're just going to wake up and look around and go, I didn't even want to be here. Why am I here?
Yeah. You know what I think is really an interesting piece of the journey, because you're absolutely right. It's definitely a journey. Is there an end point? I don't really know the answer to that question. We know what we're going for. We identify what we're aiming for, but you know, that sometimes is a moving target in a sense, because it evolves as we evolve.
Right.
I think that, so it absolutely is a journey, and embracing that journey and really understanding that there's so much learning and growth that happens in that when we're going through that journey, and asking ourselves every time we take the next step to look back at the previous step and say, okay, what now I'm here. What did I learn from this?
Right.
And the key thing there, I think, is really checking in with ourselves and asking ourselves, okay, well, how did that feel? And the point that I'm trying to make here is that one of the things that we don't do enough, I find, is check in with ourselves and allow our bodies, our emotions, our intuitions, our gut to be part of the decision-making process. Back to your point, how you said sometimes we just wake up one day and we look around and we go, why am I here? How did I end up here? I don't even want to be here.
Right.
And sometimes that happens when we're making decisions with our mind only.
Yeah.
And not paying attention to what our bodies are telling us about those decisions.
You hit the nail on the head. I think we are often more thoughtful to check in with others than we are with ourselves. And I've had multiple conversations recently with friends who are like, I didn't even realize I had gotten this bad, right? Whether it was not taking care of themselves physically, or not taking care of their marriage, or not taking care of their friendships, because they just got busy. And we can't let life pass us by because we're so busy that we're not productive. Which leads me into my next question. My favorite question that I ask all my podcast guests is, if you had to give me your definition of productive joy, what would it be?
Productive joy. What would my definition of productive joy be? Well, in the context of what we're talking about, to me, we are the most productive, the most inspired, the most creative when we are walking in alignment with our authenticity.
Mm.
And when we feel that a level of comfort where we can be our authentic self, we are our best self. And when we are our best self, we experience joy.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And yet, I think at least I spent the first 42, let's say, years of my life trying to fit in somebody else's box or trying to dim the light that I'd been given in particular instances, right? Now, I was still me, but I was muted me because I thought I was too much or I was too cheerleadery. Like, I'll just be honest. I mean, I was a cheerleader all through college. Shocker, right? Like, you look at me and you're like, yeah, you were. And I thought that carried with it a very negative persona. And, oh, well, she must be a ditz and she must be this and she must be that. And I didn't want to be any of those things. And so I think that's probably why I have my doctorate, if I'm honest. Like, I just didn't want anybody to think that I didn't have something worth saying. But that's not authentically who I am. Authentically, who I am is somebody who's going to cheer you on start to finish. So I love that you are spending your career helping others land in that level of authenticity. There is so much power in that.
There is so much power. And that too is a journey. That's a journey that I'm on as well. And I relate so much to it because I'm on that journey.
Yeah.
I'm continuing to evolve. I'm continuing to step further into my authenticity. Yeah. And yeah, so that is my joy, helping people find who they really are at their core and then clearing the way, helping them to clear the way so that they can bring that out. Because the world benefits when we are our authentic selves, when we are our best selves. We carry around a treasure trove of gifts with us every single day. And when we're able to really bring those out and lean into them, it's there is this magnetic energy that radiates from us that affects the people around us.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that I've noticed, and I'm curious if you've noticed this too, is part of owning who you are and recognizing these are the gifts that I have and I'm bringing these gifts to the table is recognizing that not everybody needs that particular gift. And so if someone says, yeah, that's not for me, we have to learn not to take that personally, right? And go, okay, that's okay. I know I'm not for you, but that doesn't make my gift any less worthy, and it keeps us going. Another thing you just said that I think is powerful, I'm a big Ed Milet fan. He's had some excellent guests, but one of his phrases that he says all the time is, you are best equipped to help the person you used to be. And I think what you just said was very true. Right now, you are best equipped to help people find their authentic selves because you're in the journey too. And there's so much power in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. So are you ready for some rapid fire questions? The kind that you can go in any direction on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have another definition for you. How do you, or not how, what is your definition of joy? No, let me fix it. What is your definition of fun?
My definition of fun is, my definition of fun. It's about a feeling.
Mm.
Because the thing that you're doing can vary from person to person, but it's what does that thing or that person that you're with when you're having fun, what does that make you feel like inside? Mm-hmm. There's a lightness to it, a flow. There's a childlike wonder inside of you where you're not second guessing. You're not any of these other things that we're not conforming to anything. We're just being. We're just enjoy. We're feeling like everything's right in the world and with ourselves.
I love that. What a great definition. All right, perfect. Second question. I think you're going to have one of the best answers of anybody I've ever asked.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, except I'm pretty sure you're going to nail it. How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
How do you know when you're showing up as your authentic self? Well, it's a two-part answer.
Okay.
Number one, you get signals from the people around you and from the universe. Okay. Like confirmation, validation. When you are, in fact, this is one of my mantras, that our authenticity attracts the perfect people and the perfect opportunities to us. So that mantra kind of gets at what I'm saying, where you get signals from the people around you and from the universe, like validation. People attract to you when you're the right people, the people that conversations with them are like butter. They're fun.
Yeah.
There's a lightness to it. And then opportunities is what I mean by the universe giving us validation, that opportunities just present themselves to you.
Well, that's how you and I crossed paths. So Jodie Costa, who actually has been on this podcast, she said, I have somebody you have got to meet, Christy. You are just going to love her. And the first time we talked, I was like, oh, well, clearly, yes, that's exactly the type of human that I would want to attract. So you do present authentically quite well. And we're of the same age bracket, because you just made a heart like this. And apparently that, oh, look, it made little things happen. Apparently there's a new way to do it. I can't do it without it looking vulgar and inappropriate. So one day I'll learn how to be cool like the cool kids. But in the meantime, love it. Okay. So next question. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
How do you channel your best self on your worst days? Okay. So, okay. Okay. That one's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. So there are things that we do when we're well. And the things that we do when we're well are the things that keep us well.
Ooh, okay? Say more about that.
So when we're well, we most likely engage in healthy habits that are specific to each one of us, right? Like maybe it's a morning workout routine that you keep on a consistent schedule and you do that when you're feeling well. Maybe it's a phone call to your best friend. Maybe it's there's like a collection of things that we do when we're well. I find it incredibly useful to write down when we're well, write down a list of what those things are that we do when we're well. Because there will be days when we're not well. We're not having a good day. And on those days, we're like, okay, I'm in a funk. I need to get myself out of this funk. What do I do? And nothing comes to mind because your brain is on lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
You're just flooded with cortisol. So you just can't, you're not able to think about those things. So, but when you have a list, you can look at that list and say, most likely it's like, I don't know that I really feel like doing this. This is right. But I can do this. I can try this. Right now.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, it helps to move you into a higher level. And maybe it doesn't do the job by itself completely, but it helps to get you to another place. And if you pull another thing from that list, like, okay, I'm feeling better. I can try this too. You do that. And I think that's a way that we can, when we notice, because that's the key thing, is noticing when we're on that slippery slope that we're sloping down, right, into that hole that sometimes we find ourselves in on bad days. When we notice that, that's when we can take out that list or keep it somewhere visible and say, okay, I just checked in with myself. I recognize that I'm not like at the top of my game. What can I do here?
Yeah.
Don't have to think about the list in the moment because you already did it when you're well. These things work for you.
Well, quite honestly, we could just mic drop right now and I don't have to ask you the last question, but the last question's an important one because you may have a slightly different answer, although that's the one that I'm going to be writing down, is just make a list of the things that I do when I am well to take care of me so that I can reference that list when I'm not so good. Because we all have off days, right? Like that's normal. But do we let the off day turn into an off week? Or do we let the off day become an off hour because we got ourselves out of whatever the funk was? I love it. Okay, so my last question that I always ask is, if people only remember one of the things that you said, and you dropped tons of wonderful things over the last 30 minutes, but if they can only remember one, what's the one thing that you really want people to gain from having listened to this podcast?
That you are a treasure. You are a treasure. We talked about how each and every one of us carries around a treasure trove of strengths and gifts every single day. And when you allow those gifts to shine, to radiate from you, and you really lean into them, it might not be for everyone, like you said, but for the people that resonate with it, you positively impact them with your radiance, with your energy. And when you positively impact them, they radiate more, they positively impact someone else. So you create a ripple effect of positivity around you. So you are a gift that the world needs.
Well, thank you.
Don't hide.
No, don't hide. And I needed to hear that today. So thank you for reminding us all that we are a treasure and we're made to be exactly who we are. And we can't let circumstances stop us from flowing into those gifts. And if work has become the kind of thing that is taking you away from your best self, then you need to do some assessment and rethink why you're where you are. And that's really how people can utilize you and your services, right? Is if they're feeling that they're a little stuck or a little like, this does not bring me joy and I am not where I'm supposed to be. If they were to reach out to you, you would be able to help them find the thing that they should be doing and help them trust their wings, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So
Yes.
tell us how to get in touch with you. What's the best way for somebody to find your services?
Well, I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Grisel Scarantino. I'm the only Grisel Scarantino on there.
That's good.
I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. There's also my website, which is www.griselscarantino.com. And on there, I offer complimentary calls. So if you wanted to schedule a call with me, I'd be happy to chat with you. I also have some really fun stuff coming out. I have a webinar coming out, a mini course, and some other nice freebies. So if you visit my website, hop onto my emailing list so you can get all those goodies delivered to your inbox. I promise that I will be respectful of your inbox and only send you things of value. But yeah, LinkedIn and my website, those are the best ways to get in contact with me.
Wonderful. And check out her book, y'all. It's almost like having a conversation with Grisel, which we just did and we know is a delightful experience, but she's written it in such a way that you feel like she's in the room with you, just having a conversation. So well done on that. That's not easy to execute and you did it flawlessly.
Thank you. Thank you, Christy.
Absolutely. So friends, thank you for spending another episode with us. My goodness, it is so cool to get to learn from other people and to grow who we are as leaders so that we can change the trajectory of our teams, of ourselves, of our lives. So if you're not already following, follow. There are so many different ways to get in touch with us, most definitely. But the easiest, like you just said, is LinkedIn. Just look up Dr. Christy McMullen. That's an easy one too. And make sure that you're letting us know what you want to hear, because this is for you, not for me. And I want to know that we're hitting the target. That's the most important thing. So thank you for being here today. And if you liked it, let us know. And guess what? We have given you some new nuggets of wisdom to figure out how to turn fun into action.